Hi everyone and welcome to another video. In this video, I will show you how easy and quick it is to run Windows 11 ARM on an Apple Silicon based Mac. I'll walk you through the installation of UTM, which is free, and the Windows 11 installation. Once we have everything installed, I'll also check the performance and go through a few practical use cases to see what Windows 11 on Apple Silicon is actually good for. In recent years, the need to run Windows next to or on top of your Mac has significantly decreased. Partly because more applications are now natively available on macOS, but also because so much has moved to web-based interfaces. Nevertheless, there are still plenty of Windows applications that we simply can't replace on macOS, or that aren't fully supported. This can be anything from specific management or niche applications or something legacy, to even Microsoft Visio for example, and some light games. Before Apple released Macs with Apple Silicon, Macs used to have the same CPU architecture as most Windows machines, x86. Back then, it was relatively easy to run Windows on a Mac, either as a virtual machine or even natively using something like Boot Camp. With Apple Silicon, things became a little more complicated. These Macs use the ARM architecture, while traditional Windows PCs are still mainly based on x86. The good news is that Microsoft now provides Windows 11 for ARM, and Windows 11 ARM can run both native ARM64 applications and many x86 and x64 Windows applications through emulation. There are commercial solutions like Parallels that allow you to run this in a virtual machine on silicon-based Macs, and they probably do a great job, but unfortunately they come at a price tag. Luckily, as an alternative, we can use UTM instead, which I've covered a few times in previous videos, and it is completely free to use. So let's get started and see how easy it is to get Windows 11 up and running on an Apple Silicon Mac. For this video, I will use my M3 based MacBook Air, but this should work perfectly fine on any other silicon based machine as well. As we can see in About This Mac, my machine is equipped with 16GB of RAM and I'm currently running macOS Tahoe. As I mentioned, we'll be using UTM as a hypervisor, so the first step we need to go through is to download this piece of software. To do so, open your browser and navigate to mac.getutm.app. On this page, click the download link and wait for the download to complete. Now open your Downloads folder in Finder and open the downloaded DMG file by double-clicking on it. Here, just drag the utm.app to the Applications folder, just like you install any other application. And once that is complete, we can now close this window and mount the DMG file. UTM is now installed. The next step is to get the ISO file that contains the Windows 11 for ARM installation files. We can easily get that from Microsoft website. I will provide all links that I have used in the video description for your convenience. On this page, select the only option that is available in the drop-down, called Windows 11 Multi-Edition ISO for ARM64, then click on Download Now. Now select the desired language for the download. I chose English US, but feel free to choose anything else. Then click Confirm, and finally click on the Download Now button. As you can see, the ISO file that we are downloading is quite big, so this can take some time, but fortunately this step has become a lot easier now. Until recently, it was a lot harder to get your hands on these installation files, especially without having a Windows machine available. Okay, the ISO file is fully downloaded now and can be found in my Downloads folder. Time to start UTM and get that Windows 11 installed. So let me navigate to Applications and Finder and then open UTM. Once UTM is started, we can click on the plus button over here to create a new virtual machine. The first thing we need to choose is if we want to virtualize or emulate. As you can see in the description already, virtualization is to use the same CPU architecture, which will result in a pretty good performance. Emulation allows for more flexibility and would make it even possible to run an x86 version of Windows, but with a large performance cost. As we downloaded the ARM version of Windows, which matches our CPU architecture, let's choose Virtualize here. In the next step, we need to select the operating system which will be running in the virtual machine. Obviously, we need to choose Windows. Next, we can choose how much memory to assign to the virtual machine. My Mac has 16 GB of RAM, so assigning half of that, 8 GB, makes sense. If you have less memory in your Mac, I would say that 4 GB is about the minimum for a working installation. For the amount of cores, I set this to 4, and it depends a bit on how performant you want the virtual machine to be and how much should remain available for macOS. Now click Continue. Then in here we need to point UTM to the location of that downloaded ISO file. So let's click Browse, then select the correct file in your Downloads folder, of course. Click Open and make sure that the option to install drivers and Spice tools is selected. As is mentioned here in the description, this enables some features that will make it a lot more comfortable to use Windows on top of your macOS installation. Click Continue again, and here we can customize how much space is available for Windows. This doesn't really mean that this is immediately reserved, it's more how large the virtual disk can grow. I will leave this to how it is set by default and then click on Continue again. In this screen, we can also set up a shared folder between the host OS, which is macOS, and the virtual machine, which will be running Windows. For now, I will not do that, and let's just continue. This is the last screen, where we get to see a summary. Let's click Save here to create the virtual machine. At this point, the VM is created, but it is still empty. So next, we can start it by pressing the play button. This boots up the machine, and just as on a physical computer, we need to press a key in order to boot from the Windows installation media. If all goes well, this should launch the Windows installer. Okay, let me make this a bit bigger, and then select the correct time and currency format and click Next. In the product keys tab, you can provide a valid key for Windows if you want to activate it, or click on I don't have a product key and maybe provide it later. In here, select the version of Windows that you would like to install, then click Next again. Accept the license terms and simply click Next here to install Windows on the virtual drive that was created with the VM. There we go, Windows is being installed. On my machine, this step went actually pretty fast. It took less than 10 minutes, and once finished, you should be greeted with the setup dialog. Here you can select your country and the correct keyboard layout. And after entering your desired username, the installation continues for a bit. After waiting some more, you should end up with a fresh Windows desktop running on top of an Apple Silicon-based Mac. As you can see, the virtual machine immediately asks us to install the UTM guest tools. As mentioned before, this will make it a lot more comfortable to use the virtual machine, so let's go through that installation first. During the installation of those, you can already see that the window resizes a few times as a proper graphical driver gets installed. From now on, the resolution of the virtual machine will actually dynamically change depending on the size of the window, which will drastically improve graphical quality. Once the installation of these tools is finished, the network interface also became available. Let's quickly test if we can access the internet from within our VM. At first glance, everything looks good and it's working as expected. Good to see. Let's take a look at System About now. Here we can see that we're actually inside a UTM VM, and indeed we can see the 64 GB of available disk space and the 8 GB of memory that got assigned to the machine. We can freely resize the window, and Windows will adjust its resolution accordingly. Performance, at first glance at least, seems pretty good as well. Before we continue our testing and play a bit around, let me see if we can also install Windows updates on here. And it looks like this works just like on a regular PC. Good to see. Let me forward this a bit and get through the mandatory reboots. The system is back and up to date, so let's do a proper test on how good this virtual machine actually performs on here by running the latest version of Geekbench. As you can notice, Geekbench reports the CPU base frequency as only 1 GHz, but let's see about it. There we have it, 2387 for single core performance and 7450 for all 4 cores in multi-core. That's a really nice core, which beats a lot of Windows installations that are running on real hardware even. If we compare this with the same test but natively on the same hardware, under macOS of course, you can see that I got 2786 for single core performance. So the performance in the VM is not bad at all. In the meanwhile, you might have noticed that we still get the question to press a key to boot from the CD or DVD when we reboot the virtual machine. In Windows itself, we can also see the mounted ISO file, and this holds us back from removing that downloaded file, taking up more than 7 GB of space. To fix this, go to Virtual Machine here, Drives, CD DVD with the ISO, and click on Eject. Now in Finder on macOS, we can go to our Downloads folder and actually remove the file. It's no longer needed unless you would like to install another Windows VM. Alright, the Windows VM seems to be working fine. We checked performance, which seems to be good. Let's put this to use with some examples. The first thing that comes to my mind is actually Notepad++. Let's try to get that installed first. As far as I know, this nice piece of software is not available for macOS, and for me, it was something that I really missed in the beginning when I started to work more with Apple hardware. The installation went flawless, and as you can see, it just runs pretty fluent and feels native on here. Pretty cool. To make the experience even more real, let's put the virtual machine in full screen. Other than this, you could also install some applications through the Microsoft Store, but honestly, I don't think I've actually really used that before, and I don't know many people that do. Some other famous software that is missing a macOS version is coming from Microsoft itself. Take for example Visio, which I used a lot in the past, and it is not available for macOS. I've installed it on here, and we can simply start it. As you can see, it runs perfectly fine on this virtual machine, and I can use it just like this was a real Windows device. Very interesting, especially if you have some older Visio files that you would like to edit. The same goes for Microsoft Access. Let's try that as well. It's been a really long time since I've actually used this tool. Let me open the sample Northwind database, which to my ID was really cool back in the day. I played around with it and got many ideas for future projects using an Access database. At first glance, this functions equally well and allows you to use Access without any problems on top of a Mac. Next, I also tested some games. The more simple games that don't require a lot of graphical performance seem to work as expected. Games that require direct 3D or some kind of graphical acceleration gave more mixed results. For example, I tried Unreal Tournament, which seems to function quite well and performance is actually pretty decent, only I seem to have some issues with the mouse sensitivity. Most likely, it's something that could be fixed with a bit of tweaking, but as you can see, it does run on here and not too bad. At least better than I would expect. Some other attempts were less successful, like Quake 3 for example, or Flatout. They didn't work right away. It might actually be fixable with something like DG Voodoo 2, but I haven't tried that. What did work to my surprise was GTA San Andreas. I did have to use Silent Patch to get it working, but that is needed on any modern Windows version today. As you can see, the game runs okay-ish, performance isn't that great, but it's enough for a nice round of nostalgia. And last but not least, what's better to test this than running the famous 3D Space Cadet pinball? That was all I have for the video. As you could see, getting Windows running on top of an Apple Mac that is silicon based became pretty easy and fast. It works great for running tools and applications that are not supported on macOS, and even allows for some fun with some older and simpler games. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this, and if you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Let me know if this has helped for you or if you have any questions in the comments. And if you like these kind of videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel and enable notifications. Thanks again and hope to see you back here soon.